noise has an agenda, and it moves fast. Before the first deliberate thought of the morning, before the intention to engage the day from a grounded position, before any choice has been made about what will occupy the interior, the noise has already arrived, the overnight notifications, the first glimpse of the news, the mental rehearsal of the difficult conversation from yesterday, the anticipatory processing of what today will require, all of it moving before the person has moved. All of it establishing itself in the interior before the person has had a chance to establish anything different. The noise moves fast because it is practiced. It knows the routes. It has been traveling the same interior pathways long enough that it no longer needs to announce itself. It simply occupies. And the person who wakes up and immediately engages with the noise, even with the intention of managing it, has handed the noise the first word. And the first word, as every previous morning has demonstrated, shapes the quality of everything that follows it. Stopping the noise requires the deliberate interruption, the specific, conscious prior act of choosing something different before the noise has had its full say, not after, before, in the window before the noise has claimed the morning's primary orientation. This is Wednesday, May 20th. And the noise that arrived before this prayer is still pressing at the edges of the space this prayer is holding. The Wednesday noise is particularly established. It has had 2 full days to deepen its roots. The concerns that were incoming on Monday have 2 days of development behind them. The anxieties that were potential on Monday have become more certain by Wednesday. The noise has had the week's first half to become the week's ambient atmosphere. Stop it here, before it takes over. Before the Wednesday's remaining hours are lived inside an interior that the noise furnished before God was invited in. His word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 46, verse 10, to be still and know that I am God. Still. Not quiet in the sense of lower volume outside, still inside, the active choosing of stillness against the noise that is pushing for the opposite. The deliberate, resistant prior act of being still before the noise has had the morning. And from the stillness, the knowing. Not from the analysis, not from the noises processing of the week, from the stillness. The knowing arrives when the noise has been stopped long enough for something truer to be heard. Before we enter this prayer, write in the comments right now, Lord, stop the noise in me before it takes over this day. I choose your stillness over everything that is already pressing. Write it as the prior choice. The choosing before the noise has the chance to make choosing feel unnecessary, like this video, as an act of interrupting the noise before it has established its Wednesday claim. Subscribe to this channel so we can begin every morning together, especially the Wednesdays, when the noise has had 2 full days to establish itself and has developed the kind of roots that require a specific, deliberate interruption to loosen. And share this prayer with someone whose Wednesday morning has already been taken over by the noise that arrived before they could stop it. Not to tell them what to do about the noise, to give them the stillness that stops it. Now let us stop the noise before it takes the rest of the day. Lord my God and my Father, I come before you on this Wednesday morning and I do something the noise did not expect. I stop, right here. In the middle of the Wednesday that has already been running, in the middle of the noise that arrived before the prayer, I stop, not because the things the noise is about are not real. They are real. Not because the concerns are not legitimate. They are legitimate. But because the noise around real things is not the same as the real things, and the noise can be stopped without the real things stopping with it. What is the noise carrying this Wednesday morning? The ongoing concern about the relationship situation that has been developing all week. The noise around that concern is larger than the concern itself. The concern is specific and bounded. The noise has expanded it, connected it to other concerns, projected its worst-case versions, and is now running a version of the concern that is significantly larger than the actual situation. I stop that noise now. The concern remains. The noise around it is stopped. The noise about what today will require. The anticipatory processing of the Wednesday's demands before the Wednesday's demands have arrived to be addressed. The rehearsal of the difficult thing that might happen rather than engagement with the thing that is actually happening. The noise around the future is always larger than the future itself. I stop that noise now. The Wednesday's demands will be met when they arrive. The noise around them is stopped. The noise of self-assessment. The ongoing internal review of whether the week is going well enough, whether the output is sufficient, whether the person is performing adequately relative to the week's requirements. That review produces noise that is almost entirely anxiety-shaped and very rarely helpful. I stop that noise now. Your word declares in the book of Psalm 4, verse 4, to tremble and do not sin. When you are on your bed, search your hearts and be silent. Be silent. That is the instruction for the interior that has been running the noise. Not suppress the concerns the noise was carrying. Be silent. And in the silence, the searching of the heart that produces the honest knowing without the noise's distortion. Search my heart today, Lord, in the silence that the stopping of the noise makes possible. Not the noise's version of what is in the heart, what is actually there, seen clearly in the stillness. And Father, I want to name something about the Wednesday noise that earlier in the week it did not have: momentum. The Monday noise was fresh. It had just arrived. It was making its first case for the week's agenda. The Wednesday noise has 2 days of reinforcement behind it. The concern that was a possibility on Monday is a more established presence by Wednesday. The anxiety that was anticipated on Monday has been confirmed by Tuesday's evidence. The Wednesday noise is not just louder, it is more convinced of its own legitimacy. And the Wednesday stopping of the noise is harder than the Monday stopping, precisely because the noise has earned some of its Wednesday confidence. The concern is real. The anxiety has genuine data behind it. The Wednesday noise is not entirely wrong about the things it is noisy about, which makes the stopping of the noise require something more than the dismissal of unfounded fears. It requires the stopping of noise that has some legitimate content, and the receiving of that legitimate content in a different, quieter form that the noise was not providing. Your word declares in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 8, that whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think about such things. The instruction is not to think about nothing, it is to think about the right things. The legitimate content of the Wednesday concern, held in the frame of what is true rather than what the noise was amplifying, can be thought about. The concern is real. The noise around the concern is the problem. The stopping of the noise allows the real concern to be held in the right frame. The frame that includes what is true and noble and admirable alongside what is concerning. Both, without the noise's exclusion of everything outside the concerning. Father, I want to pray about what the noise is replacing and why the replacement matters. The noise is replacing something. It does not fill a neutral space. It displaces something that was in the space before the noise arrived. The presence of God in the interior, the clarity that the presence produces, the perspective that comes from the orientation toward God rather than toward the week's concerns, the peace that guards the heart and the mind when the heart and the mind are attended to by the one who gives peace. The noise occupies the space where those things lived, not by force exactly, by priority. By the simple fact that the noise is louder and earlier and more practiced at arriving than the quieter things are at establishing themselves. The presence is available. The clarity is available. The perspective and the peace are available. But they do not compete with the noise at the noise's pace. They settle into the space the noise leaves, which is not much space because the noise does not leave much. Stopping the noise creates the space. The presence does not have to compete with the noise once the noise has been stopped. It settles into the stopped space, and what settles in the stopped noise is what the noise was displacing. Your word declares in the book of 1 Kings, chapter 19, verse 12, that after the wind and the earthquake and the fire, there was a still, small voice. After all the noise, the still, small voice. The voice does not compete with the noise. It comes after the noise has passed. And the person who stops the noise in the Wednesday morning prayer creates the after, in which the still, small voice can be heard. Not louder than the noise. More true. Lord, stop the noise in me before it takes over this day. I choose your stillness over everything that is already pressing. And Father, I want to ask for something about the specific quality of silence that follows the stopping of the noise, because silence is not neutral either. There are two kinds of silence: the silence of the empty room that will be refilled by whatever arrives next, and the silence of the room that has been entered by the one who was waiting for the noise to stop. The first silence is provisional. It is the pause between noise and more noise. The second silence is filled by what the noise was preventing. The Wednesday prayer is the second silence. The noise has been stopped, and into the stopped noise, something enters that is not the noise's next version. The presence, the clarity, the perspective from above the level of the week's concerns, the peace that passes understanding, all of it settling into the silence that the stopping of the noise created. What enters the silence this morning, Lord? What was being prevented by the noise that is now able to arrive? What is the word for this specific Wednesday that the noise was drowning out and that the stopping of the noise is making audible? Let the silence be that kind, not the empty silence waiting to be refilled. The filled silence entered by what the noise was displacing. And Father, I want to name something about the filled silence that makes it different from the managed quiet of a person who has simply reduced the external volume. Because the noise is not primarily external, the external noise can be silenced by leaving the room, turning off the phone, closing the notifications, and those external silencings are worth doing, but they do not stop the internal noise. The person who removes all external noise and sits in a physically quiet room frequently discovers that the loudest noise was never coming from outside. The internal noise runs independently of the external. The concern about the relationship runs in the quiet room as loudly as it ran in the busy room. The self-assessment is not deterred by the absence of distraction. The anticipatory processing of what the day will require is just as active in the silence as in the activity. The internal noise is the harder noise to stop because it has the interior's cooperation. The stopping this prayer is asking for is the internal stopping, the deliberate, chosen, God-assisted quiet of the thoughts that the external silence leaves running. And that stopping requires more than the removal of external distraction. It requires the positive presence of something that the noise cannot share space with. The presence of God in the interior is the only thing that stops the internal noise, rather than merely quieting the space around it. Your word declares in the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, verse 15, that in repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. Quietness and trust. They come together. The quietness that is produced by the trust that is the specific internal content that the noise cannot occupy the same space as. When the trust is present, the noise cannot maintain its occupation, not because the trust argues with the noise or overcomes it by force, because the trust and the noise cannot both be the interior's operating principle simultaneously. The trust settles, and in the settling, the noise loses its position. Lord, stop the noise in me before it takes over this day. I choose your stillness over everything that is already pressing. Lord, I want to pray now about how the noise attempts to return once the prayer has stopped it, because it will attempt to return. The noise is practiced. It has the roots established. It knows the pathways. And as soon as the specific deliberate act of stopping ends, the noise resumes its advance. Not because the prayer failed, because the noise is persistent and the stopping of it is a practice, not a single event. The practice is the management of the returning. Every time the noise resumes its advance through the day, the practice person has a response. One breath, the stopping again. Lord, stop the noise in me. It does not require a full prayer. It requires the interruption that the morning prayer has practiced. The deliberate insertion of the stopping between the noise and the person who could otherwise receive it, unchallenged. Your word declares in the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 5 that we take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. Take captive. That is the stopping of the noise. The individual thought, the specific piece of the noise, identified and stopped before it has completed its intended circuit. Not every thought is noise, but every thought that is noise can be stopped, taken captive, brought before Christ. And the bringing before Christ is the testing of the noise against something truer than the noise. Does this thought align with what is true, with what is actually known rather than what is feared, with what God says rather than what the anxiety is saying? The test determines what is noise and what is legitimate. The noise is stopped. The legitimate is received. And Father, I want to ask for something about what happens in the Wednesday afternoon when the noise has resumed. Because it will resume, the inbox returns. The difficult situation presents its next development. The self-assessment is triggered by the afternoon's evidence. The noise is very good at the Wednesday afternoon, but the person who stopped the noise in the morning prayer has something the person who did not stop it does not have. The memory of the stillness, the specific experienced quality of what the interior feels like when the noise has been stopped and the presence has entered. That memory is the comparison point. When the noise resumes in the afternoon, the person who knows what the stillness is has a reference for what they are missing, and the reference motivates the return to the stopping, not as an obligation, as the desire for the quality of the stillness that was experienced in the morning. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 63, verse 1, that my soul thirsts for you, my whole being longs for you, in a dry and parched land where there is no water. The longing for the presence is what the morning stillness produces in the person who received it. The Wednesday afternoon that is running, the noise produces the thirst for the stillness, and the thirst motivates the stopping. The stopping returns the person to the presence. And the presence is again what it was in the morning, available, filling, displacing the noise with something truer. Lord, stop the noise in me before it takes over this day. I choose your stillness over everything that is already pressing. Father, as this prayer closes, I want to receive something about what the noise-stopped person brings to the people of this Wednesday. Patience with the noisiness of others. Because the person who has stopped the noise in themselves has a different relationship to the noise in others. The person who has not stopped their own noise experiences other people's noise as competition. Two noise sources running simultaneously. The loudness compounds, the impatience grows. The person who has stopped their noise has interior space that the noise was occupying. And that interior space can receive the other person's noise as something that needs what the morning stopping produced. The noise-stopped person is not impatient with the noisy person. They are present to them, with the specific quality of presence that the stop noise allows. Not competing, receiving. Your word declares in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 2, to carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. The carrying of burdens requires interior space. The person whose interior is full of their own noise cannot carry another person's burden. The carrying requires room, and the stopping of the noise creates the room that the burden carrying requires. Let me have room today, Lord, for the people whose noise is their burden, for the person who arrives at the Wednesday conversation with the noise running loudly enough that they cannot hear their own stillness. Let the noise-stopped interior I bring be the space in which their noise can find something to contend with, something quieter, something truer, something that came from the Wednesday morning prayer before the day got loud. And I want to close with the specific word that the stopped noise makes audible. Not a complex word, simple. The simplest and most comprehensive word available to the interior that has been quieted enough to hear it. You are not alone. The noise makes the person feel alone in the concerns, alone in the management of the unresolved, alone in the facing of the Wednesday's accumulated demands. The noise is the sound of a person trying to navigate alone what was not designed to be navigated alone. And the stopping of the noise is the ending of the aloneness, not because circumstances changed, because the one who is with the person in every moment of the Wednesday was always there. The noise was the only thing that made the witness inaudible. Your word declares in the book of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 5, that God has said, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you, never." The leaving and the forsaking are categorically off the table. What the noise was suggesting about the aloneness of the navigating is simply not true. The stopped noise reveals the truth. Never alone. Never forsaken. The Wednesday concerns held by the one who is with the person in them. The Wednesday demands met by the one who goes before into every room that Wednesday opens. Stop the noise, Lord. Let the truth be audible. Never alone. Never forsaken. Not in the noise-filled Wednesday. Not in any Wednesday. Never. And I want to receive something about what the noise-stopped person carries through the rest of the week. The memory of what Wednesday's stillness provided. What was heard in the stopped noise. What was received in the filled silence. What the still small voice said when the wind and the earthquake and the fire had passed. That memory is what holds the person through Thursday's louder version of the same noise, through Friday's accumulated version, through Saturday's attempt to carry the week's noise into the weekend. The Wednesday stopping is not only for Wednesday. It is for the formation of the person who knows how to stop the noise, who has practiced the interruption enough that the practice becomes available in the Thursday's noise, without requiring the full morning prayer to access. One breath, the stopping, the choice made again, the stillness entered again, not from scratch, from the practice that Wednesday established. Your word declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 131, verse 2, that I have calmed and quieted myself. I am like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child I am content, the quieted self, not by external force. I have calmed and quieted myself, the practice of the interior quieting, the self-chosen stillness. The weaned child content, not because all needs are met, but because the source of contentment is the presence of the mother rather than the meeting of the specific need. The content in the presence, not in the noise's resolution, in the presence that the noise was preventing from being the primary thing. Lord, stop the noise in me before it takes over this day. I choose your stillness over everything that is already pressing. That is the declaration this Wednesday makes against the noise that has been running since before the prayer began. The noise is stopped, the stillness entered, the present settled, the truth is audible. And the Wednesday that continues after this prayer continues with a person who chose the stillness before the noise had taken over. To everyone who prayed with me this morning, go back to the comments and write it one final time. Lord, stop the noise in me before it takes over this day. I choose your stillness over everything that is already pressing. Return to that stopping at every point. The noise attempts to resume. One breath, the stopping. The choice made again, as many times as the Wednesday requires. Subscribe to this channel and come back tomorrow morning. We are here every day, stopping the noise before it has established the day's default orientation. Share this prayer with someone whose Wednesday has already been taken over. Not to critique the taking over, to give them the stopping that was available before it happened, and that is still available now. May the Lord stop every noise in your interior today that was drowning out what is actually true. May the stillness that follows the stopping be the kind that is filled by the presence, rather than the kind that is waiting to be refilled by the next version of the noise. May the people of your Wednesday receive the presence of someone who stopped the noise before it took over, and may you discover, in the quiet that the stopping produces, that the truth is simpler and truer than anything the noise was saying. In Jesus' name, amen.